Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. My name is Swire Ho, your host for the show. My guest today is Andy Buyting from Tulip Media Group. Andy is a thought leader in the thought leadership and content marketing. His integrated content strategies have helped both himself and his clients succeed. Andy thought leadership journey started when he published his first business book in 2007 and started publishing his magazine in 2009. I'm going to ask Andy because he is an expert in print and digital marketing. And also, Andy had co-authored a book that is the perfect title for me: How to Double Sales, Zero Salespeople, Optimize Sales and Marketing in One Business Development Strategy. Before that, welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Swire. I'm excited to be here.
A lot to talk about, but I would like to ask you to talk about your professional journey from 2007 all the way up to this point. And what do you like best about what you do?
Sure. Well, Swire, I've always been an entrepreneur. Always was working. Always worked for myself. I grew up in family business, and always loved marketing. I always found it very fascinating how, with a really good marketing strategy, you can influence people to do what you want them to do, which is, in most cases, for most businesses, it's to buy their product or service. And so I've always been fascinated in it. And is especially around thought leadership. I remember years ago, I took a program at MIT in Boston. It was called the Birthing of Giants. And Vern Harnish was the facilitator, the teacher, mentor there. And he talked about this concept: you need to own the ink in your industry. And he said, whatever your customers are reading, have it come from you. You want to be established as the authority in the marketplace. So in our old business, I actually took that to heart, and we started publishing our own newsletters, and then it became our own magazine. We were in the retail home and garden center business, and we started publishing our own magazine. And actually in 2007 when I wrote my first book, because I wanted to establish myself as an expert in the retail business. Anyway, a few years later, fast forward a few years, we launched a company, which is now Tulip Media Group. And it was all around, the way I put it is that I created a company that was going to be like a playground. It was going to be the type of work that I love to do, which was marketing. And I was going to create it with, with a culture and with people around me who I resonated with. And as we grew Tulip Media Group, we hire really smart people who love marketing and love helping others. And that's the culture that we've created. And the what we offer as products and services has certainly evolved over the last 8-10 years. But it still centers around trying to, helping our client partners fulfill their marketing strategies, help them develop a strategy and execute on that strategy in a way that it actually produces real results. And we just love every minute of it. So that's been the journey to this point.
Thank you for sharing. And I know particularly my first question that I want to ask you, since you are both an expert in print and digital, what do you think is going to happen in 2023? Depending on who you talk to, especially if you're talking to digital marketing expert, they would say print is that. It's all about Google ads, Facebook ad, or LinkedIn sponsored posts. Like, what do you think? Do they coexist, or do you prefer one for another?
Yeah, I believe that there's absolutely a place for both. In fact, the right strategy has a bit of both for sure. I look at there's many differences between the two. And when we work with a client partner at Tulip Media Group, we take an integrated approach where we actually work with them to develop their digital marketing strategy. And with that, we work on their website with the right messaging to have the right call to action. And so that when the right people, when their core customer lands on that website, they actually do the action. They actually take the next step that we want them to take. So we'll work with them on their website, on their digital marketing, their pay-per-click or content marketing for SEO and so on. So we'll work with them on all of that. But once you gain a client, print is actually so powerful to enhance and optimize engagement with existing clients, as well as referrals. Because we've talked to numerous companies and client partners over the years, Swire, that, I remember talking with one gentleman in Nashville, and he said, I need to grow. We have lofty goals to grow our sales. I said, great. Tell me about it. We chatted for quite a while. And I said, you know what? I'm going to actually, I actually don't think you need digital marketing. What you need is you need to figure out how to plug the holes in your leaky bucket, because in order for your company to grow, for every new client you had coming in the front door, you were losing one out the back door.
Hmm.
So I said, you have to start there. How do you keep and retain the clients you have? Let's start there. Let's talk about that. And the way we optimized that was we started doing a very deliberate print marketing campaign where we added a lot of value for their clients. We helped them add a lot of value for their clients, and featuring their clients, you leveraging the print material to optimize for referrals. But there is a place for both, and it can be done actually quite easily when you take that integrated approach, and when you actually leverage great content in both your digital and your print marketing strategies.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. And I do like that example because, it's always cheaper to retain a client than to get a new one. So if you find ways to, retain all your current client, you probably do pretty well. And you're just adding on top of what you already have.
Exactly. And when you think about retaining clients, you want them to feel valued.
Hmm.
And a lot of companies will say, well, we send out an email newsletter every week. Well, that's great, and I'm not putting that down. However, your clients who are sending you money every week, every month, every year, whatever the case might be, they're getting your email newsletter, but they're also getting the email newsletter for probably 5 of your competitors. And you're not really standing out that way. However, if you can send them a copy of a printed magazine or newsletter that features one of your clients, that features someone else's story, and they have something tangible that they can hold in their hand, that shows them that you're willing to invest in them. You're willing to you value that relationship, and you're willing to invest your own dollars into nurturing that relationship. And it's a whole different level when you can provide them with great content in print format. It just has a whole lot more meaning and a whole lot more value to those clients.
I like that, especially if you are in a product or industry that has a long learning cycle, right? For a product, for example, a camera, maybe how to drive a car. Even you can actually publish the magazine with testimonial or case study by actual user. So you're providing content while you actually selling people. Maybe they see all the setup with people with good lights and or maybe nice rims and set up all the cars. People actually will buy more from you. So you actually gaining more from the same client than if you would just sell a car or whatever product and services that you normally do.
Exactly. And and it is about adding value. And one thing that we do quite often, so we do a lot of customized newsletters or magazines. A client or company wants to put out their own magazine. You mentioned the automobile industry, you want to put out your own automobile magazine for your dealership or your chain of dealerships. We can help you do that. And actually you're the dealership that's actually publishing and sending out your own magazine to your customers. That's hugely powerful. And what we recommend with all of our client partners doing anything in print, take that front cover, take that front page, and feature one of your customers.
Mm.
So if you're one of my customers and I just sold you a car, I want to feature Swire with his new BMW or new Toyota or whatever it might be, and feature your story with your vehicle and how satisfied you are with my service. That by default makes you into an ambassador, makes you into a referral partner for my company. And all I've done was featured you in the front cover. And guess what? If you feature a customer or a client in the front cover of your newsletter or your magazine, you'll have so much loyalty out of that customer. They won't want to leave you because you just tooted their horn and to the whole marketplace. So that's a great, again, another great way to add value to your customers.
Great. Yeah, I love that example. If you feature me, I'll send it to everyone that I know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Without you paying me though, that's I think is the point that I always encourage people to understand, if you feature someone, if you do nice for someone, they will actually be really happy and send it to you. Maybe they'll tell three friends, right? If I bought a car and it's nice, but if you feature me, if you do something nice for me and you let me have something to share with, I'll actually tell a lot more people than I actually normally would if I only have what's with me.
Yeah, 100%. It works like a charm.
So how would you advise, company thinking about, they know content marketing is important. So obviously you need their resource needs to be in there. First is pay marketing where you could get immediate result, right?
Yeah.
So content marketing, I would assume takes longer. Pay marketing, you get it right away. How should they balance it?
We recommend, and people have different philosophies, but we do recommend doing both because the content marketing is what will provide you with that, that authority in your industry. The more content you can put out there, when somebody lands on your website and they can find lots of resources, it positions you as an authority in the marketplace. However, like you said, it is a longer term build, but it actually, if you stay with it, and this is a lot of content marketers take this approach, and because it works, you have to be consistent. And I always tell people, if you can, people say, well, I'll write, one article a week. That's great as long as you can keep it up. If you cannot keep it up, you're better off doing an article a month or doing a great blog post every month consistently. That will help your organic search engines, because when you put that on your website, Google will index that. And Google's whole mission, when somebody types in a search in Google, they want to match that person to the resource that will answer their questions as fast and as effective as possible. So in order for you to be at the top of the list, you need to have a lot of content. And Google likes, if you're updating your blog every month, they're looking at a website that is updated every month, which is great. If every week is better, but if you do a few weeks and then you skip a few weeks and then you're sporadic, it's not consistent, and Google doesn't like that. So content marketing does work, and it will help raise your organic search traffic, but it does take time. At Tulip, that's why we suggest do that absolutely for sure, but also do a pay-per-click advertising, because that's a way to buy your way to the top, so to speak, and get a little bit more immediate traction. Now, down the road, we often, and we do everything. Nothing starts without a thorough competitive analysis, which means that we study your competitors, the folks that, the companies that you run up against most often in your marketplace. We study your competitors, your direct competitors, as well as aspirational competitors, those people in your industry that are really good at what they do. We study both of them along with yourself, and we figure out, why are people going to their websites? We have tools and platforms available to us that we can figure out what are the search terms that are driving people to your competitor's website instead of yours, or to that aspirational, that best in class, player in your industry, what drives people to their website instead of yours. That, along with a good keyword strategy approach, we will actually come up with a solid keyword strategy that will work in your marketplace. And by the way, in your marketplace, it changes with every marketplace, because we do a lot of work, Swire, and the Tulip team does a lot of work with insurance agencies all over North America. And the keyword strategy that works in Minnesota is very different than what works in Newark, New Jersey. It just, the different marketplaces, people use different terms in their searches, and so on. So you need to have a really good keyword strategy to understand what people are looking for, the words that they're using. And then with that keyword strategy, you can then develop content around that, which Google will index, and will send people to you to get answers to questions they may have. And it'll also help with your pay-per-click, because it will connect with the people. It'll show up better. It'll connect with the people and will drive traffic to your website. So the short answer is you need to do both. But when you do both, you've got to be smart about it. and develop that keyword strategy first. It's so critical.
A lot of good point. There are specific, like, you do your research, you develop a plan, and then you execute the plan. I think a lot of people who try and didn't have any return is they didn't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you go everywhere. So if you don't have the specific keyword and you do the research, then you are targeting everyone. So for example, using the insurance agent, like you suggest, everyone is insurance, but not everyone is your prime target or your ideal client. Or maybe you sell a specific type of insurance that only a certain people or certain size of a company will be able to buy from you. So who are they? What kind of keyword? Like Andy's suggesting. So you would suggest us to figure out a plan and then execute the plan and not go all over the place.
Not go all over the place. And the plan it plays to all those things that you talked about, Swire, but it also, I'll give you a great example. Sometimes it'll point you, and having a good plan and doing your research will help you develop what are those phrases that you actually should use. And an insurance example, we are dealing with a client partner who does a lot of insurance. One of their big markets, they do a lot of commercial insurance, but one of their big markets is they do insurance with multi-unit residential insurance. That's what they call it, multi-unit residential. So we did a keyword strategy, and we said, you know what? Nobody in your marketplace searches for multi-residential insurance. They said, okay, well, try apartment insurance. Okay, we looked at that. Over time, what we figured out is, nobody searched for multi-residential insurance. So using those terms, it's not going to connect with anything that anybody's searching for. We tried apartment insurance. Again, the number of people searching for that was really low, and the competition was quite high because a lot of people said, we sell apartment insurance, so we want to be in that industry. Then we looked at it and said, if you call it landlord insurance, she said, oh, nobody calls it that. I said, you know what? 170 people called it that last month in your marketplace looking for landlord insurance. So let's do that. And let's write articles around landlord insurance. And then Google, because it'll tell you in your marketplace, this is the term that people are using. Google will see that you're looking for landlord insurance. Here's a website that talks about landlord insurance, or here are PPC ads that talk about landlord insurance. Obviously, that's where we want to send you, and you'll get the traffic. So you want to be very, very careful and be strategic with those keywords.
I really like that, especially you are finding ones that are not as popular, but maybe it's a different phrase. You can search it. So, depending on the size of your company, you might or might not be able to, let's say, take the first spot, right? And even if you pay for it. So it might be cost prohibitive. I know that some expensive keywords can cost up to $500 per click. So
yeah, and we're very careful. We balance, okay, this might be the best keyword, but here's another one that, it gets half the amount of traffic, but it costs 1/10 the cost. So let's really dive into that. And I'm happy with getting 10% of a marketplace coming to our website. And then, so that's a great place to start.
Okay. What would you say if a newer business or entrepreneur come to you and tell you that we couldn't really afford to spend the money to market? Like, are there any things that they should do, or how would you advise them?
I would say, well, first of all, nobody can afford not to market. However, if you're just starting out, a restaurant or a retail store or something, coffee shop, you may need to do it in-house. But there are lots of tools online, lots of companies that will help you develop a website. So you need to start there and, create your website so that people who are searching for you have a way to reach out to you, have a way to find you. So you do need to start something somewhere, even if you are doing it in-house for now. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of folks that do their own keyword strategy. The nice thing about Google and all those platforms is that they're really good at teaching you how to do it. There's Google certification that you can do. It costs nothing to do, but it does take time, right? It does take time. And it, I would just say to people, do what you can, get your website up and going. You want people to be able to find you, depending on the industry, um, depending on the industry that you're in, the market that you're trying to go after, there's a ton of different tactics, but you need to get something up online. You need to give people a way to find you. And, if you have the time and the resources, do a dive into, Google, learn about how the algorithms work, learn about how search engine optimization works, learn about pay-per-click advertising, and you just start experimenting. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but you do need to start experimenting, and do it by, educate yourself, try many different things. When things work, the nice thing with digital is you can measure it all. So when things work, it works, and you can start spending a little bit more money in there. And then when people say they can't afford marketing, when you figure out the right marketing strategy, you can't afford not to. And with our client partners, like at Tulip, what we try to do, we ensure a 90-day return on the investment, meaning that when you start to invest in any kind of a digital marketing strategy or a program with the team, with Tulip Media, we will show you results within 90 days. Or with some industries, we actually guarantee the results. And once you have the strategy that works, then it's just a matter of, we have many client partners that say, okay, we got to tone down, we got to slow down the marketing because we're at capacity.
That's
We
a
have
good problem to have.
manufacturing businesses do that. A lot of manufacturing companies that we work with, we have what we call an MSAP. So it's a manufacturing sales acceleration program. And we have many manufacturers that when they start with us, within about 9 to 12 months, we're actually starting to slow the program down because they reach capacity in their manufacturing, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, good problem to have. And I would think that, Andy, you're right. And I would suggest, this touch on some of the personal branding side, but this is what one could do if you first started out to become the expert in your industry. I would suggest everyone to Google Andy's name and Andy's Buyting. You see all the related post website that Andy and Tulip Media wants you to see. So in now day of an age, when we talk to a potential company or when we meet someone new, what is the next thing that we do? We go home and we Google them.
That's
what
right.
are the information that you want your prospect or by your colleagues to see? That's, I think, nowadays how people are judging if someone is an expert. Is he talking about things that are related to their industry, right?
Yeah.
Are they posting content, that goes into the content marketing that are related to what he talks about? If Andy talks about marketing, but then if I see Andy just, playing sports, and he might not be the expert in industry, but when I Google Andy's, all his details relate to what he's talking about. Andy's also on TED Talk. So Andy has created his own content marketing surrounding himself to become the expert in his field.
Yeah. And that's they call the digital blueprint. Everyone has one, right? Everyone has a digital persona online, has a digital reputation, or there's information online. And you can either influence and dictate what is put online about you, or, as I said in my TED Talk, when somebody searches your name online, do you want them to see all of the great articles you wrote about your subject area of expertise, or do you want them to see, the how you spent last weekend? Well, if it's a potential customer, I'd rather them see the former. So think about what you're putting online.
Okay. I want to ask you for a big question. You wrote the book, how to double sales with zero salespeople. How does that concept work? And, I'm asking for me, how can I do that?
So it's a great question. So so at Tulip, what we do is our team, we start off by talking with a client partner and truly understanding. We start with the core customer. Who is it that you're trying to attract? Who are you trying to connect with? And we want to understand not just the demographics, but what are their challenges? We call it, what is the villain? What's the external problem? What's the internal problem? We want to understand what is motivating the person that we're trying to reach. Once we understand the core customer at a deep level, the most important part is we then look at the website messaging, and we start there. We start in the middle of the funnel, and we say, okay, you're understanding your core customer. When they land on your website, what is the messaging that they see? Do they understand what you offer? Do they understand? Do they have a feeling of being understood? Do you talk about their problems, their challenges, where they want to go, and that you are the guide to take them there? So we start there with that messaging, and then does it funnel to a clear call to action? So many websites are so full of information, which is great, but when somebody lands on a website and there's 20 different ways to go, they don't know what to do next. So with us, we create landing page. Oftentimes it's the home page of the website. Sometimes it's not, but we create a landing page that speaks to that core customer, really touches them, really connects with them, brings them through a journey, and has them do one clear call to action, only one. And it may be to book a call, it may be to book a reservation, it may be to, schedule a demo. It differs with different companies, but you want the right people to connect with your website, with your landing page, and take that call to action to do what you want them to do. Once we have that website created, then we leverage those keywords to create content to bring people to the website, as well as pay-per-click advertising. And the reason why I stress so much about the website, Swire, is because, the metaphor I always use is that if you were opening up a retail store, you would not start advertising and then stock your shelves and merchandise the product and train your staff. You'd actually stock the shelves, merchandise the product, train your staff, sweep off the front doorstep, and then you would invite people in. But so many people look at digital marketing and say, I need to bring more traffic to my website. It's like, I need to stand outside my front door and say, come in, come in, come in. But if I'm not ready to sell to them, you might bring all kinds of people onto your all kinds of traffic onto your website. And if they don't take action, it's a waste of time and money. So that's why we spend so much time on the website and connecting with the customers so that we get them to do what we want them to do. And when I look at our own business, I often tell people, I really do not care. I actually don't even look at the website traffic numbers that we get. I don't care how much traffic we get to our website, or how many Facebook likes we have, or how many people follow us on Instagram. What I care about, how many times does their phone ring? How many people fill out contact forms looking for more information about what we're selling? And how many people book meetings in our production people? We leverage our production team to take those calls. But how many people book meetings in our calendars because they want to learn more about what we offer? Those are the three measurements of success that we measure for ourselves, and we measure for all of our client partners, and that you can take to the bank. So, really that's where I would start, is looking at the website, first understanding the core customer, look at your website, make sure it's effective, so that when we had a conversation earlier today, we talked about quality over quantity. Rather speak to 5 great prospects than have 1,000 go onto our website that didn't translate into any business, right? So we are very deliberate for our client partners, as well as understanding so that their core customers, so that we can make their website effective. And then we start bringing people onto the website. And then once they become a client partner, remember all that content that we created, all those blog posts and great articles that we wrote. Well, those articles go into a print format, whether it's newsletters or magazines, and we use the same content, the same articles, because they were written for the audience, and we send it to their customers, their clients that they're working with already, to optimize, engagement and referrals from those existing clients. So that's the process that we take at Tulip.
I think that's a really good way to nurture a client, or maybe you are in a long cycle, going back to buying cars. You might not buy a car right away, but you're interested in it. You schedule for a test drive, and then you're going to think about it. But if you do have magazines that could support why your company offer more compelling story in that space, and then you have case study to prove it, not just once, but on continuously, marketing to those clients. And then when they're ready, you're probably the first one or the only one that they will consider.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Then you're positioned as the authority. And yeah, when people do want to, I mean, when you think about it yourself, you're buying any major purchase. Are you going to buy from someone who you have a lot of respect from, or, you know, from just the first ad you see? You're gonna buy from the people who have the good reputation, and your online reputation, means a lot.
From your point of view, and I know it depends on the industry that you're in, right? How long or how much time frame would you suggest a client to spend in order to develop a voice or to become the expert in that industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does take time, with blog posts to raise the organic searches. It does take some time. Usually what we find is that within about 6 months, you start to see some progress. And we have numerous examples of client partners that we started working with that were, when we started, they might have been, in the organic search terms on Google, they might have been on page 3 or 4 or maybe even 5. And within about 6 months, they're really starting to jump up. And, by the way, you don't have to be the first, you don't have to be number one, but you do have to be on the first page, which means that for organic searches, you want to be number 1, 2, or 3. And there's not a material amount of difference. Like if there's a juggernaut in your industry that has the number 1 spot in organic searches in your marketplace, that's fine. You'll be, to displace them, it might not be worth the investment. But if you're number 2 or 3, you'll get almost as much traffic, and sometimes more traffic if your content is more relevant. But it will take time. You will start to see movement on the organic search traffic. If done well, you will start to see movement within the first 3 to 6 months. But really, after about a year, then at that point in time, you've seen some significant movement. In the meantime, that's where the pay-per-click also helps to expedite, because you can get on the top 1, 2, or 3 by paying for those clicks. And by being smart about it, like we talked about, different clicks are priced at different levels. If you're smart about it, maybe the number 1 search keyword phrase is not worth the dollars, but the number 2, you can get an exponential return on investment there. That's where we'll focus.
That's good advice. And one thing that I think that works for me in my business is I try to listen to the community. When people call me, right, for service that I do, I ask them, what key phrase do you use, and try to, when you create content, try to answer a question, right? There are many questions out there surrounding your product or industry. If you're the person who try to address all the questions, and then it elevates you, right? This person know all the answer for my problem, so maybe when I need things that in their industry, I'll call them first. So I think that kind of works for me. And you could do it in a number of different ways. You could do it on social media. You can do a blog to respond to it. Or you can, even if you don't mind to be on camera, go on camera and answer the question and just talk about yourself. So I think those are the no cost or low cost one that you could probably do yourself.
Yeah. And one thing I always suggest too is pick a medium and stick to it. So, if you, and it's not always an exact science, but let's say, you think, okay, I'm B2B, so I'm going to do all of my messaging on LinkedIn. Great. Then stick with LinkedIn. Don't do this week's on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to do 1 or 2 on Facebook and do another posting over here. No, just stick with LinkedIn and put it all there and become really big on LinkedIn in your industry, in your marketplace. Or, I have a good friend of mine does a ton of YouTube videos. Great. And he purposely does not post videos, the original videos on Facebook or Instagram or anything else. It's on YouTube because he wants to grow his YouTube subscribers. That's his strategy. that works wonderful. Other friends that have other clients and colleagues that have done podcasts like yourself, or other mediums. But whatever you do, or one good friend of mine is huge on Instagram, but that's where he focuses. It's all around Instagram and building up his Instagram audience. He does the other ones as well, but they're an afterthought. All original content goes on Instagram first and then goes out from there. And always you talked about writing to your audience, and that's where, again, I come back to the good keyword strategy. Another great example was, we had another client partner in Minnesota and in the insurance space, and he said, we do a lot of contractor or construction insurance. So we did all this search. He said, why don't we write a few articles around that? But what we found out was people didn't search contractor or construction or home building insurance or anything like this. What they did search for was carpentry insurance. I'm looking for carpentry insurance. So we wrote articles about, the 5 key mistakes that people make when buying carpentry insurance and how to avoid them. What a great article, because people will take action and will want to avoid mistakes. By the way, most people, they'll take action to avoid pain more than they will to go after pleasure. So if you can write an article, instead of saying the 5 things you should do right when buying carpentry insurance, that's probably a great article. But if you reword it and present it as to the 5 biggest mistakes that people make when buying carpentry insurance and how to avoid them, that will actually inspire more action to be taken. And at Tulip, that's what we look for, is what are those opportunities to speak to that customer, to speak to their fears, so that they get that warm and fuzzy feeling that we are the expert and we are there to help.
That's good advice. I'm writing it down. So instead of best something for 2023, then I should rephrase it, what to avoid, right? So people
potentially,
yeah. Okay, that's really
depending
good
on
advice.
The topic, but yes, depending on the topic, but yeah.
Hey, Andy, I know that I could go on for the next 4 hours just to ask you all the questions that we have, but for a listener who might have individual question and want to dive deeper, what would be a good way to reach out to you?
You know what, Swire, we have a landing page a page on our website that for your audience, and it's tm.media/double sales, like the book, double sales, 0 salespeople. tm.media/double sales. And when your audience is there, they can get a free chapter of the book. They can buy the book if they like. But what I'm most excited about, and what I encourage people to do, is you can book a meeting, book a half-hour call with myself or my co-author of the book, Jessica Embry, right on the website, all leveraging Calendly, so it's quick and easy. But you can go right on there, book a call in our calendar. We'll jump onto a Zoom call with you and talk about your marketing challenges or your opportunities, and maybe give you a few pointers that might help you out.
Thank you so much for the great offer. I'll definitely include the link in the show notes. Andy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Swire, for having me. It's been a pleasure.